You're listening to Be the Exception Podcast, episode 71. So I've recently had some people jump into my DMs on Instagram asking about sensory corners and what to include. So I thought today's episode we could break down what to include in a sensory corner, where you can find it, and some different options of setups that have been successful. So let's go ahead and jump on into our conversation today all about sensory rooms or sensory corners, depending on how our space is allotted for our classroom.
Welcome to Be the Exception Podcast. As teachers, each one of us has something that comes naturally to us that others would love to know more about. Throughout this podcast, we'll chat with amazing professionals and offer easily digestible tips that you can quickly implement in your classroom or business, helping you stand out with things you do really well. Your host, Dawn Ellis, is a qualified educational specialist with 10 years of special education experience, published journal articles, and was a state finalist for Elementary Teacher of the Year. Dawn provides tools for special education teachers to perform at their very best, helping deal with the frustrating daily obstacles of being an educator. She offers a roadmap of resources and strategies to make you a confident leader in your school and community. So if you're ready to start the conversation, learn from others, and grow together, you're in the right place. Now here's your host, Dawn Ellis.
Hey there, my name is Dawn Ellis. I am so glad you are here today. We are going to be chatting about sensory rooms or sensory corners. Now, I want to make sure that this is clear as we get started in this episode that sensory corners are not limited to just special education, self-contained classrooms, or even resource rooms. They are effective in those settings, but they can also be implemented in general education classrooms as well. So as we talk about these different ideas today and ways to use them, it's important to know that it really could be used anywhere. So if you're an inclusion teacher, a resource teacher, or a self-contained teacher, I hope you find these tips helpful. So let's chat about what a sensory corner is. It is an environment or an area that can be very immersive for people of all ages to have a full sensory experience. It also helps those with various abilities. So anything from like a single sensory product all the way to a full sensory room can provide this experience. However, a sensory corner is a corner of a room that can be transformed into this sensory experience for individuals to enjoy. Like I said earlier, it can be in a special education classroom or in a general education classroom. But the key here is to make the space both fun and comforting. So having an area like this is great for situations when you don't have enough space to do an entire room. But it really allows for a wide range of sensory experiences, even in a corner space. Some of the benefits of introducing this kind of sensory corner into your classroom allows a sensory environment into a part of your classroom without having to sacrifice the entire room. This dedicated space is great to serve as a calm down area, to provide different cool colors or have fidgets or different types of sensory tools that we're going to talk about in this episode for students to use and have it as an area to calm down or to refocus or to help calm that anxiety that they may experience throughout the day. So some sensory corner ideas would include some bean bags or a weighted stuffies or weighted blankets, reversible sequin pillows that they can rub back and forth, motion timers, even some balance boards or a trampoline if your space allows. Having different types of fidgets such as squishy balls or kinetic sand, rice or beans also are helpful in this space. I know I've also used the covers of my windows to kind of darken that space and have twinkle lights. I've seen other people use crash pads or even a swing or sensory tubes in that area or space. And it really just depends on how big of a space that you have of what you can use, but also what your students' needs are. Sometimes with a swing, you either have to have a frame or get with your maintenance department to install the right kind of attachments for it to be used. So just know that. I know that there is something called Fun and Functional Catalog, and it has a lot of different varieties of sensory objects that could be used for either a room or a corner. So if that's something that you're looking at spending a little more money on to check out, some people love the fiber optic things, such as the ropes or the walls. Or even I have a bubble wall in my room, and it is so calming. We actually keep it on most of the day, both as a just constant hum in the room, but ours changes colors. And so the kids are able to just kind of walk over and just kind of zone out and kind of regroup. Also in our sensory area, in addition to the bean bags, the weighted blanket, the water wall, we have a tube that has colors and fish floating up and down and a trampoline. But then we also have like just picture cards or some of our sign language cards that are in my sign language bundle, so that they can help me understand what they are feeling or how I can best help them, even if words are sometimes hard to come out. Another option would to just be dimming the lights and having flexible lighting in the room, whether it is rope lighting, the twinkle lights, having different kinds of lamps in your room or in that area. There are a variety of string lights, and anyways, all of those overhead lights can sometimes just cause anxiety or even migraine. So being conscious of the lighting that you have in that space or even in your room. I've heard some people say that a squeeze machine is something that kids really like, and ultimately it's like two rollers that you can find on like Amazon or the Kaplan, but they roll through it and it gives them some of that deep pressure to help them. It's definitely something that would be great in a sensory room. Also found on Edtopia a great article about sensory rooms, and I'll link that in the show notes if you are getting started with an entire room of things to consider and things to get started with. But know that your OT is a great resource when developing this space for your students. No matter if it is general ed students or special education students, they understand a lot about the fine and large motor skills and how to make that space even better. I even have some of the liquid floor tiles in my corner to where kids can step on and go back and forth and kind of watch all of the liquid kind of squish around. I've had them for a couple of years and they've held up very well, even with my 4th and 5th graders. So it's definitely a good investment. And lastly, just a lot of different fidgets. I know the poppers are really popular right now, and you can even find them in the dollar section at Target, but having squishy stress balls, even the calming vest or things that they can pull on, the different kinds of squishies that are available, or even the fidget spinners, having just little things that they can sit over there and do to calm down is super important. I certainly believe that the fluorescent light covers, if your school allows them, is super helpful in the classroom, but also in that area. So you can definitely set it up in different little tubs of activities. I know that A Perfect Blend has a calming corner kit, and she has some visuals that go along with that area. That's actually something I use. I'll link it in my on my blog about sensory corner ideas, just kind of how mine looks and how we have it set up. And just, again, depending on your space, it truly will reflect on how much or what you can do. I know I've talked about it in episodes past, but I do have a freebie for grant writing for Donors Choose. It is a great option to consider when needing some of these items that are a little bit on the higher ticketed end, to write a grant for it and how it will be used. And a lot of times those things can be funded and you're not having to spend out-of-pocket money, but your kids benefit. So I'll link that in the show notes again, so that if there are things like beyond just maybe the Play-Doh or the fidgets or, you know, a beanbag chair, or if you want some of the lighting or the water wall, the Donors Choose is a great way to fund some of those things. Some people really enjoy using the diffuser and a sound system, even if it's just an iPad, to have different noises in the room, and then using the essential oils in the diffuser as well as the lighting in your sensory corner to kind of give that all five senses working to calm down. And then back in episode 53, we talked about board games, and even having some of those different kinds of simple games that they can do, or stack, or even Play-Doh is perfect for this area. Some kids also love bubbles, and having a bubble machine over there could be a way of incorporating some of the physical and different sensory needs of the student. So these are just some of the things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link the blog post with all of these items today in the show notes. I'm also going to have a category set up on my Amazon store so that you can directly access the different items that we've talked about, and include some pictures of what mine looks like and has looked like in the past. I've never had an entire sensory room, but I've always had a sensory corner, and how it's changed and adjusted throughout the year to hopefully give you some ideas. And if you need that freebie poster for sign language, make sure and check that out in the show notes as well. It will be, it's in my Teachers Pay Teacher store, as well as some sign language, a bundle of different resources. That way you can make sure that you're understanding what the kids are saying, that they can point to it to tell you how they're feeling and what they need. But I hope that these tips have helped at least start spinning the wheels in your head of how to include a sensory corner in your room, no matter what kind of room you may have, and how you can start very small and have just a few things, and start tweaking and being knowledgeable of just a few things that you could do differently, and then grow into some bigger ideas and have a dream board. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I do have that free digital special ed notebook, and it does have a brain dump area, and it's a perfect place for you to brain dump your sensory room ideas and to kind of get a plan to formulate and even write those mini grants to help fund that sensory corner to best meet your students' needs. So all that will be linked in the show notes. Make sure and check it out. And I appreciate you listening to today's episode, all about meeting our sensory needs of our students. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to take time to leave a review on the platform that you are listening to. It really helps us get the word out, and even share it into some of your groups or with your other special education friends, because we are all better together. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for all that you do, and continue to be exceptional this school year.